All right. Again, thank you for checking in. My name is Winter, the Tax Code Annihilator Boy, coming to you out of Chicago. Now, we're going to, at the completion of this training, we're going to go ahead and have our first campaign all put together so we can go ahead and start marketing, right? So while I'm going through this tutorial, please feel free to take advantage of our little emojis at the top of your screen. Let me know what I'm doing. Okay, now I'm doing this to serve you, and I want to make sure that you get as much out of this as possible. All right. Now, the first thing we've already created our group cruise, right? So you would let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay. And then also, as we're going along, please feel free to take advantage of the chat and enter in any questions either via chat or the Q&A option. All right. So once you've actually created your group booking, and we're going to go take advantage of this using Carnival. So last week I created a Carnival group. And here is what I put in reservations. So this tells me all the category descriptions that I have, the amount of cabins that I booked. And up the top, you can see where you can print your confirmation. So here are your details. Now, if we go here, here are my cabins. Here are the rates. This also lets me know what my commission amount is, so on and so forth. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is create a payment plan schedule. So you don't have to individually, and I would recommend that you just choose a rate and then base your payment plan schedule around one particular cabin and keep everything, so just so you can keep everything as simple as possible. So what we're looking at right now, I'm just going to take like a median range here. Okay, and we're going to start off here. A couple of points that I want to make sure that you're aware of is once you go inside the actual booking itself and click on guidelines and touch on payment guidelines here, it's going to, here's the guidelines we have to set in play when we're creating a payment plan. You guys see that? So by July 3rd, this particular reservation requires at least $25 per person, right? By August 17th, we will have needed to submit to Carnival by the date an additional $250 per person. And then the full payment, regardless of the amount and regardless of the cabin, that's going to be due to Carnival Cruise Lines by October 31st. Okay. So when you're creating your payment schedule, you must keep these time frames in mind. And I will also like to recommend that you set your dates prior to these days, and it can be maybe 3 days prior. Just in case you have some people that don't, there are people that don't pay on time. So I would definitely recommend that you go ahead and you give them different dates. So we're going to go with this. These are the guidelines that we're going to follow. And I'm just going to go ahead and base this on one of my mid-range or interior, the $460. So to come up with the exact cost of your trip, you take your cabin rate, right? We're going to take our cabin rate, and then we're going to go ahead and add the non-commissionable fees to come up with the total amount. So if I'm starting off at the 460, and then I go ahead and I add 159, and that's the taxes, port fees, and etc. That's going to bring my total out to 619. Right? You're following me so far? So for any of these cabins, you will be adding $159 import fees to come up with your actual cost. Okay. All right. Does that make sense? I'm hoping everybody's following me along there. Okay. All right. So that's going to give us $619. Okay. Now, as far as the guidelines are concerned, let's go back to the guidelines. The guidelines is stating that we require $25 per person July 3rd, an additional $250 by August, and the balance. So in this particular example, the deposit is $25 per person. Okay, what you can do so that you can earn some upfront commissions. Now, this is just a suggestion. You don't have to do that. You can keep it at $25 per person for your non-refundable deposits. Okay, or you can tell them that it's $50 per person. Okay, for your deposit. And then that means you would in fact be making an additional $50 cabin in upfront commissions on this booking. Does that make sense? So it's definitely up to you. But please keep in mind that that's going to add if you do so, that's going to add an additional $50 to the cost of each cabin. So when you're creating your marketing material and you're putting price in, or you letting your clients know the total amount and pricing, you got to make sure that you add that additional 50 in the total amount. So I'm going to go ahead and proceed using $50 per person as my deposit. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to my total, making that particular cabin $669 instead of the $619, because I'm letting them know that it's a $50. So I want to go ahead and make that upfront commission, right? So now to come up with your payment plan, you have your $669, and you go ahead and you subtract that. You can subtract that, leaving you with $619. That's your deposit. $619 is going to be left. Now the full balance is required by October 28th. And instead of telling my customers that the deposit is due July 1st, I'm going to tell them that the deposit is due June, toward the end of June, to allow them enough time to play around. And I want to go ahead and start collecting that money as quickly as possible so I can secure each cabin. So if I'm going all the way to October, and I'm going to select October 28th for my final payment, if I'm setting my deposit in June and I'm taking my last payment in October, that's going to give me July, August, September, and October for additional payment dates. That's giving my customers 4 additional months to pay the balance of the $619, right? So they'll be making 4 payments. They'll make their initial deposit of $50, which we're going to make sure that they're aware that it's non-refundable and non-cancelable, right? So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have July, August, September, and October, okay, with which we need to collect the additional payment. So you can go ahead and take that $619 and divide it by 4 months. And that's going to give you $154.75. So this is the same payment every month, right? So if we collect our $50 upfront on the deposit, giving them July, August, September, and October. In this particular example, 4 months to collect the total. Now, if you don't like 154.75, you can always change your numbers around and make them look like you want them to look. For example, you may want only to collect $100, and then October they have to just pay the balance in full. So definitely feel free to modify these numbers. Right now, I just want to go ahead and simplify it. So we're looking at 154.75 that you can collect July, August, September, and October, so that they can go ahead and have this paid off in full within their 4-month time frame. Okay, does that make sense so far? All right. So again, $50 up front, $154, I'm sorry, and 75 cents for the next 4 months, and that payment is made in full. And you can collect that in whichever way that you set up your business to collect funds. Some people take checks. Some people go ahead and accept credit card payments via Square Cash, PayPal, whatever payment method that you're using. Okay, and you collect those monies. Now, another thing that I want to go ahead and point out really quickly for those of you that already started booking, when you're using those platforms to accept credit card payments, please keep in mind that they're going to charge you fees in order to do so, right? So you may want to go ahead and add a convenience charge to your clients' payments in order to offset those costs and fees associated with accepting credit card payments. Or you can decide to just go ahead and eat those costs up and write them off as a tax deduction. You can do that whichever method you want. Okay? So I do want to make sure that insofar in sync with regards to creating a payment plan. So I just kept this simple. Like I said, if you don't like 154, you can always just say, hey, that's going to be additional payments of $99 per month per person, right? And then your last payment just be the full balance. Okay, so only thing you have to make sure you're doing is following the guidelines, right? So just to piggyback on what I was talking about, remember they give you the guidelines, you create the payment plan. So here it's asking for an additional $250 to have been collected per person by August 17th. So if we go ahead and put everything in play, the manner in which I've talked about so far for payments, that means July and August, in this particular example, we would have been collected, what we have, $309. So we're fitting the parameters of their payment plan. Does that make sense? Okay. And that's the only thing you have to do. As long as your numbers add up to these particular guidelines, okay? And then also keep in mind that it'll be if you set a date for each payment. So in this particular example, I may go ahead and say, hey, let's have these payments in by the 15th of the month, right? 15th, 154.75, August 15th, 154.75. And like I said, I'll take it in a day or two early, because you're going to be collecting that money from your client, and these are the dates with which that money needs to be paid to Carnival Cruise Lines. All right, so now that we've actually, let me go back to the screen share. Let's see here. All right. Okay. All right. Good, good, good. Okay, so the next thing that we're wanting to do is go ahead and create a flyer with which we can go ahead and start marketing this cruise, right? So for this, we're going to use one of my favorites when I'm working on my desktop is postermywall.com. It is a free platform. Okay, and I really love this. So you can start with a blank canvas. What I did here was just went on and I found a photo that I wanted to use. So you can always go, in this particular instance, I went to carnival.com and I just went to their photo gallery, right? I went on ahead to their photo gallery and I just decided to find a photo of Carney that I wanted, that I'll be using. I started off, let me go ahead and save this one because I want to make sure that in the beginning here, I've gotten pretty good at creating flyers, and I have quite a few of them here. But you can definitely start with a blank canvas. And they have many to choose from. You can choose a blank canvas and add your own backgrounds, or you can select a template to work with, right? Okay, just like if you were going to go ahead and do a Valentine's cruise, you have some awesome backgrounds that you can use, but feel free to start with a blank canvas, right? You can go ahead and start with a blank canvas and add your own backgrounds and photos. So what I did here was I found something that I liked on Carnival's website, found a photo, downloaded their photo, and then I clicked here. Give me 1 second. I clicked on background right here, and I just uploaded my photo. Okay. All right, now in this particular platform, this platform is really easy to use. You have your photos, just if you're wanting to add photos to the actual flyer, your text fields, clip art, background, etc., etc. So here's another one I added: 7-day Western Caribbean from New Orleans. Okay, I can go ahead and plug in here my dates. So my sale date here in this example is January 14th, 2018. Let me make sure I get that right. All right. And you can move that around however you want. Like I said, this is a really, really great platform to use. Okay. And I'd like to add another text field. So I'm going to keep everything as simple as possible. So you're going to want to go ahead and add information from your itinerary. So you get to print out your itinerary. Here's mine. 7-day cruise, January 14th. And you can go straight to, and this is what I like to do. You can do this whichever way you want to, but this is what I like to do. I go to the itinerary, so I'm going to scroll my itinerary and take a look at the ports, right? So here are the ports that this particular cruise will be visiting. All right, so we're going to be departing from New Orleans. We're going to be visiting Mahogany Bay, Belize, and Cozumel, right? So I'm going to go add that to my flyer. And I'm going to do it right here. That's just because that's where I want to do it. You can do this whichever way you like. And I'm going to add all the ports of call, right? Okay, let me spread this out a little bit so that everything can fit the screen. Okay. And I'll just extend that out. Right. And like I said, posting my wall is really, really awesome. Okay. And which ones, what were the other ones? Belize, Mahogany Bay, Belize, and then Cozumel. I'm going to go ahead and add that information here. All right. You guys seeing that so far? So I have the ports of call. Okay. Now, I don't know if there are a few of you that are doing this as I go along. Feel free to do so. And I'm going to go ahead and do this. Ports of call. Right? So we have that on our flyer. Okay, and then we can also add all right. Now I'm wanting to collect some upfront commissions, right? So I'm going to go ahead and put on here $50 deposit. And I said I was collecting mine in June. So I want to give it, plenty of people plenty of time to pay so I can book as many as possible because I reserved 50 cabins. So since my next payment is going to be July 15th, right, I can go ahead and say, hey, your deposits are due by June 30th. Plenty of time to collect as many deposits as possible in order to secure your cabin reservations, right? All right, I'm also going to, and sometimes I like having everything in separate boxes so I can move things around and shift it the way I want. Okay, now you can also add on here payment plan available, or whatever verbiage that you want to use. If you want, you can go ahead and add on there the entire schedule, right? So in my example, remember, payment plan is $154.75. You can say $155 per person and then full balance at the end. Okay? Whichever way you want to go ahead and set up your verbiage, right? And then also in my example, I've secured, let me go back here to the reservations. I secured both only interior cabins as well as balconies. So I would then add up to, interior cabins available up to 460, right? And then the balcony at 731. Now, these numbers are coming from my particular example, okay? So interior cabins available. And like I said, I like to keep my boxes separate. Interior up to 460. Now you can also go ahead and just add in the port fees and taxes here, right? But then also keep in mind that in my example, I would have to add $50, an additional 25, because I'm making $25 per person in upfront. So I would take the 460 plus my 25 in upfront plus 9. You can put that full price on here if you like, or you can just whichever one you want to do, because then if you do add the taxes and fees to the cost, then you can let them know straight off the top that's already included in the cost. Okay, does that make sense? Because then you'll be giving them the total cost per cabin. So with the additional, let's go ahead and do it that way. With my additional upfront commissions and the taxes, fees, and port costs, we're looking at $644. So interior cabins up to $644, and then balcony available. You can put balcony. And let's go ahead and calculate our balcony rate. So for the balcony rate with my upfront and also the non-commissionable, that's going to be $915. Okay. Let's see. All right, and I'm just gonna go ahead and do one more, and I'm gonna let them know that taxes and port fees are included in these costs, right? Okay, let me fix this so the text won't overlap. And then, like I said, you can modify this and change the color and play around with it, do whatever it is. But here, I've actually created my masterpiece. This is what I'll use. Let me just change that and put sale date. Okay. Here it is. I can go ahead and save that. Now, it's one modification that I'm catching right now, and I'm going to go ahead and put $50 deposit per person on here. Please make sure that you say that. All right, if you're wanting to collect that upfront commissions, right? Okay. So let's see. Let me go ahead and make that revision real quick. $50 deposit per person. Okay, that's it. Go ahead and save it. To go ahead and you can also add agency name here. You can go ahead and Facebook page or website information on here as well. Can we get a, or you can just save that for in your text. Okay. The 644, thank you so much. I'll go over that again. Now I came up with 644. Okay, I'm using the interior cabin. So I'm basing this off the interior cabin 460, right? Now this is including this is only including the $25 deposit. Because I want to make upfront commissions, I'm going to add an additional $25 per person to the cost of the cruise. Does that make sense? So I'm taking that 460. I'm adding 25. And then I'm also going to add the 159 and the non-commissionable fees. Keep in mind, this is the taxes, government, the government fees, port costs, right? And that gives me my 644. And that's the highest of my interior cabins. Okay. Now 644, that's paying me an additional $50 in upfront commission because this is per person. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. So it's already including, in this example, in my payment guidelines, I'm only required to per person. I want upfront commissions, right? So I'm going to tell them it's $50. That's giving me an additional $25 per person, 50 per cabin in upfront commissions. Okay. All right. So now we've created our flyer. This is the flyer that you can use on any type of social media. You go ahead and just download it, and it'll download as a pic. So you'll be able to use it on any social media platforms. Okay. Also keep in mind here, and I want to point out, feel free to take this advertising offline. Okay, guys? So it definitely would make sense to go ahead and let me just go ahead and do that now. I can go ahead and add in here whatever number that you're using for your booking. I actually have a second line that I use for booking. So anytime anybody calls this particular line, I know exactly what they're calling for. So I'm going to go ahead and add my booking number here. Okay. Now that that's completed, I can finally go ahead and save. And I'm going to show you something else real. I was actually talking to you about marketing offline. A lot of you guys are only doing things through Facebook. We have so many other ways to market our business. Market your business, Facebook, LinkedIn, also to establish relationships and keep them abreast. Pinterest, Instagram, Snapchat. There's so many different ways that you can market online, but offline is available to you as well. So something like this, and you're making a reservation, and you're wanting to book as many, like in this particular instance, I've reserved 50 cabins, right? I want to book and hold as many of those as possible. Okay, so offline as well. So you can actually download this. You can download it for free and use it on your social media platforms, but then it also gives you an opportunity to purchase this and download it as well. So you can choose to do whichever method you want. You can also download this and upload it to Vistaprint and print out you 100 postcards with this on there, and you can hand those out, right? You can take it another step and turn it into an entire page and print out some 8x11 flyers and distribute them in different locations for people to pick up. Or you can create this in a full page flyer with tear-offs at the bottom with your contact information and plaster it in libraries or whatever locations you find. But there's plenty. Don't forget about the offline marketing opportunities as well. So you see, I've actually saved this. It comes out in a JPEG. So you can use this on any of your social media platforms. You can put as much information on here as possible that you'd like. And as much information. If you want to throw out as much information as possible to your customer, you can do so on this flyer. And then the last but not least, in order to go ahead and come up with a way, you want to start plastering it all on social media, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Let's prep this for social media. And we're going to go ahead and keep it simple. I'm going to go ahead and actually take advantage of this now. I'm going to do it now while we're in this training. And I'm actually going to plaster mine on my account. So I'm hoping that everybody that's in attendance, I'm going to be checking your page to see if you've actually went on ahead and walked through the tutorial and did what it is that you had to do and come up with your payment plan and actually post it on your page. So I'm definitely going to be watching you guys, okay? All right, I'm going to go ahead and give it a second to do what computers do. Let's see. It's just taking its little sweet time. All right, so while that's actually loading, are there any questions so far? Do any of you guys have any questions for me so far? So we've actually taken a group cruise that we reserved, that we had on reservation. All right, we looked at the guidelines. We created a simplified payment schedule that you can let everybody know of. Okay. For some reason, it didn't post. Let's see if I can find it in here. Okay. I'm not sure if it's saved in here. Let's see. Let me go to it. Yeah, no, I gotta move it. Oops. Let me make sure that it went where it was supposed to go. Okay, so it is in my folder. All right, let me go back to Facebook. And I'm just gonna upload it. Since it didn't want to do it. There it goes right there. All right, and then I'll just do the same thing. 7-day. Seven-day Western Caribbean cruise from New Orleans. Now, in this particular instance, there's so much information on here. Let's see. It's not that much. I'm really repeating the same information. So I'm saying $50 non-refundable. Deposit per person. Okay, and then I can also put the ports on there too if I like. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. New Orleans. Mahogany Bay. Belize. And Cozumel. Make sure you put your, what did I set up for my date? June 30th for my deposit. And then you can also feel free to drop your link in here. So whichever method that you're doing to collect your payments, you can go ahead and also add that to your post. Let's see, which one am I going to use? I think I have a couple of them. PayPal. Now the cool thing here about, for those using PayPal Me, it's pretty freaking awesome. So with PayPal Me, if you're using that particular platform, PayPal Me sets up a link. You can create a PayPal account. You can go ahead and create a link, and then that link allows you to set up, and it's just a simplified link. They can click on the link and make their payment that way, right? You also get to add on there, on your original link, the dollar amount with which you're trying to collect. So we can do $100 because it's 50 per person, right? So this is how much I want to collect. So here's my link. I'm going to go ahead and put $100 in there. I can copy and paste that thing and put it right in here. Uh-oh. To reserve your cabins, right? Okay. Now, with whatever verbiage you want to use, you can do that, but here it is right here. Here's my ad. The great thing about that, you know, people, you might have somebody to go ahead and click on it and because there's so much information on this particular flyer. Everything is here. It includes the taxes and port fees. It's letting you know it's a payment plan available. The only, and I don't like to add everything in the flyer because I'd rather have somebody inbox me with questions, right? But then I know that they're interested, so I can keep in contact with them. Okay. Yes. Per person. And then that you can also add that to the actual flyer based on double occupancy. Yes. Right, I can add that here. Let's see. Throw that in a couple brackets real quick. And there's your ad. That's simple, right? You have your flyer right here. All your information, 7 from New Orleans. All the other information is on the flyer, and you can go ahead and post. Keep in mind too is you can, if you do have a Facebook business page or if you have a Facebook group, you would then add the group. So any groups that you have and that you participate in on Facebook, anything that you're doing on any of the social platforms that you have available, I would go ahead and spread that information around. And as people are asking questions on your timeline, on your feed, asking questions about it, I actually add them to either my Facebook group or I would add them or invite them to like my business travel page. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, you guys. So that is it in a nutshell. Okay. So we've taken the information from our cruise guidelines that we had already established. We've set up a payment plan. You can modify this per person, but we want to go ahead and have something set up in place, right? Already have something in place. So when people do ask questions and everything, but like I said, also in addition to that, what you'd also want to do is go ahead and create an event. So whether that's on your personal page, whether that's in your Facebook travel page or in a group, right? You can go ahead and create an event and upload that same flyer to be the header for your event. Does that make sense? And then as you continue to add details and pictures and any other information that will be made available to you either on whatever vendor partner that you're using, you'll take some of their information and add those details to your group, right? All right, so has any of this information been helpful for you so far? Please make sure you're letting people know that those monies are non-refundable and non-cancelable, okay? All right, so if there's no further questions for me, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much for checking in with me. You are now able to create your first campaign to start marketing your group cruise on social media, online and offline as well. Thanks so much, you guys. This webinar is officially over.